Hello and welcome to Justice Insight Cam. Experience unscripted police encounters exactly as they unfold on body cameras. We go further than the raw video to uncover the legal facts and educational moments of each incident. Let's analyze justice in action.
Sir, hold up. I need to ask you something. Okay, what's going on, officer? Whose child is this? She's my daughter.
Dad, I'm scared.
You're telling me that's your kid? I can show you my ID if you don't reach for anything. Keep your hands where I can see them. You can't be her dad. Look at you. So where'd you get her from?
The first thing Lily registered was the sound. Not the birds, not the laughter from the playground, not even the ice cream truck music drifting across the park. It was the metal, the sharp, cold click of handcuffs opening. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew it was wrong. Those cuffs were in a police officer's hand, and they were being aimed at her father. Her small fingers tightened around Marcus Bennett's wrist instantly. Instinct, fear, confusion, all at once. "Daddy, why is he doing that?" Marcus didn't answer immediately because he was still trying to understand how a peaceful Saturday afternoon had turned into this. 10 minutes earlier, they'd been feeding ducks by the lake. 5 minutes earlier, they'd been laughing over spilled lemonade. Now a patrol car sat idling behind them. A cop stood in front of them, and accusations were already in the air. Heavy, ugly, unfounded. Marcus kept both hands visible, palms open, the way he'd been taught years before he ever became a father. "Officer," he said calmly. "What is this about?" "Oh," the cop didn't answer directly. His eyes were locked on Lily. Blonde hair, green eyes, freckled cheeks. Then back to Marcus, dark skin, broad shoulders, protective stance. The contrast in his mind had already written a story before a single question was verified. "Whose kid is that?" the officer demanded. Marcus blinked once. "She's mine." The officer's expression didn't soften. If anything, it hardened. "Yeah," he said slowly. "Yours?" "Yes." Lily squeezed his hand tighter. She could feel the tension. Kids always could. The officer stepped closer, too close. "Where'd you get her from?" Marcus frowned. I'm sorry." "You heard me?" The officer snapped. "Where did you get the kid?" The word kid came out like evidence, like accusation, like theft. Marcus inhaled slowly, forcing calm into his voice. "She's my daughter." The officer let out a short laugh, humorless. Phones were already starting to rise around the park because the tone alone told bystanders this wasn't routine. This was escalation. Before we go any further, comment where you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. Marcus kept his posture steady. "You're mistaken," he said. "Her name is Lily Bennett. I'm her father." The officer circled them slowly now, eyes scanning like he was inspecting evidence. "Lily Bennett, huh?" he muttered. He crouched suddenly to her level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she said quietly. "Lily? What?" "Bennett." The officer nodded, but suspicion stayed glued to his face. He stood again, looking Marcus up and down. "You got ID?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, M. Let me see it." Marcus moved slowly, reaching into his pocket. "Slow." The officer snapped instantly, hand drifting toward his holster. Marcus froze mid-motion, then moved even slower, pulling out his wallet and handing over his license. The officer looked at it, then back at Lily, then at Marcus again. Last names matched. Still, he didn't believe it. "You got proof?" he asked. "Proof of what? That she's yours?" Marcus exhaled. "Officer, we're at the park. I didn't ask where you were. I asked for proof." Lily tugged Marcus's sleeve. "Daddy, I want to go home." He knelt beside her. "It's okay, Bug," he whispered. "We will." The officer's voice cut in again. "Stand up." Marcus rose slowly. "Where's the mother?" the cop asked. "At work." "Doing what? She's a nurse." The officer smirked. "Uh-huh." That tone again, disbelief wrapped in assumption. "You expect me to believe," the officer said louder now, "that this little girl is yours. Yes, he gestured between them. Look at her. Look at you. There it was. Open. Unfiltered. She's mixed, Marcus said evenly. Her mother is white. The officer chuckled. You people always got a story ready. A woman near the swings gasped softly. Marcus's jaw tightened. First visible a crack in his composure. That's not a story, he said. That's my family. The officer stepped closer again. Turn around. Marcus blinked. For what? B. Suspicion of child abduction. The words exploded across the park. Parents stopped mid-conversation. Kids slowed their play. Phones rose higher. Marcus felt Lily latch onto his leg instantly. She's my daddy, she cried. Stop! The officer ignored her completely. Turn around, he repeated, grabbing Marcus's arm. Rough, unnecessary. Marcus stiffened. I'm not resisting. Neuro didn't say you were. The officer twisted his arm slightly anyway, asserting control, not procedure. Where did you take her from? He demanded again. I didn't take her from anywhere. Whoa, you grab her from school, from a store, from a street. Marcus's voice sharpened. From our house? The officer scoffed. Convenient answer. Lily was sobbing now, full tears, clinging to Marcus's waist. You're hurting him. A bystander shouted. That's his kid, man. The officer snapped back without looking. Stay out of police business. He pulled Marcus a step toward the cruiser. Save it for the station. Marcus planted his feet. You're scaring my daughter. You should have thought about that before taking her, the officer replied coldly. That sentence cut deeper than the cuffs about to follow, because now the officer was reaching for them, metal glinting in the sunlight. Lily screamed louder. Don't take my daddy. Marcus's heart cracked in that moment, not from fear of arrest, but from what she was witnessing. He lowered his voice gently to her. Bug, listen to me. But the officer interrupted. Hands behind your back. For what charge? Suspicion of kidnapping? Failure to provide proof of guardianship. Marcus stared at him in disbelief. You're arresting me because my daughter doesn't look like me. The officer didn't answer directly, but his silence confirmed everything. He grabbed Marcus's wrists, rougher this time. The first cuff clicked shut. Phones zoomed in. A woman whispered, Oh my God. Lily screamed hysterically now. That's my daddy. He didn't do nothing. The officer ignored her cries, ignored the witnesses, ignored the matching last names, ignored the ID because in his mind, the visual difference between father and daughter outweighed documented proof. The second cuff locked. Marcus stood restrained in the middle of a public park, accused, humiliated, in front of his child. And as the officer began guiding him towards the cruiser, body cam footage captured everything. The accusations, the language, the force, the child's screams. But the escalation wasn't finished because dispatch had already been called. Possible child abduction suspect detained. The officer reported into his radio. The words echoed across the park speakers clipped to his vest. Strangers stared harder now, judgment spreading faster than truth. Lily tried to run after her father as he was walked away. A bystander caught her gently before she reached the cruiser. It's okay, baby, the woman whispered, but Lily screamed louder. That's my daddy. He didn't steal me. Her voice cracked the air, and that was what made multiple phones zoom in closer, because now the child herself was contradicting the accusation on camera. Marcus turned his head slightly as he was placed against the squad car. Call her mother, he said calmly. You'll clear this up in 5 minutes. The officer ignored him. Save it, he replied. Kidnappers always got explanations. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, not in fear, in disbelief. No, because what this officer didn't realize was that Lily's mother, a registered nurse at County General, was about to answer a phone call that would bring her racing to that park with documents, with proof, with fury, And once that proof arrived, this stop wouldn't just collapse. It would explode into lawsuits, investigations, and consequences that would cost far more than an apology. The squad car door slammed louder than it needed to. Metal against metal. Final. Marcus sat cuffed in the back seat, shoulders rigid, breathing measured. Not because he was calm, but because he refused to let Lily see fear onto his face. Outside the cruiser, her cries hadn't stopped. They'd gotten louder, desperate. "Daddy, Daddy, please don't go." She tried to run toward the car again, but the same woman who'd stopped her earlier held her gently. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered again. But it wasn't okay, and everyone knew it. "Ma nerve!" The officer paced beside the cruiser like he'd just completed a major arrest. Chest puffed slightly, radio crackling, authority on display. He opened the rear door halfway and leaned in close to Marcus. "Start talking," he said. Marcus looked at him steadily. "I already did," the officer scoffed. "No," he said. "You gave me a story. I gave you the truth." The officer smirked. "Funny how that works," he muttered. "Every time we pick one of you up, there's always some complicated explanation." Marcus's jaw tightened again. "She's my daughter." The officer shook his head slowly. "Don't even look alike." "There are birth certificates for that," Marcus replied calmly. "Yeah," the officer said. "You got one on you at the park?" Marcus didn't answer because the question itself was absurd. The officer took the silence as confirmation. "That's what I thought," he said. Across the grass, Lily's crying had turned into full panic now. "Please, he's my daddy. He didn't steal me." Her voice cracked so loudly that even dispatch audio bled faintly from the officer's shoulder mic. A second patrol unit was pulling into the parking lot now, backup responding to the possible child abduction. 2 officers stepped out. They approached slower, reading the scene before speaking. One of them looked at Lily first, then at Marcus in cuffs, then back at the first officer. "But what we got?" he asked. "Possible abductor," the arresting officer replied immediately. "Claims the kid is his." "Claims?" the second officer repeated. "Yeah," he said. "Story doesn't add up." The second officer looked again at Lily, clinging to the bystander. "She's calling him Dad," he noted. The first officer shrugged. "The kids, get coached." That sentence drew visible reactions from the crowd. Phones angled closer. "Recording clearer." Marcus leaned forward slightly despite the cuffs. "Call my wife," he said. "Her name is Hannah Bennett. She works at County General Hospital. She'll confirm everything." The officer chuckled. "Oh, now there's a wife. There's always been a wife." "Uh-huh." He turned to the second officer. "See, story keeps growing." The second officer didn't laugh. He looked uneasy now. "Did you run his ID?" he asked. "Yeah," the first officer replied. "Last names match." "They would if it's planned," he said dismissively. Marcus stared at him in disbelief. "You think I fabricated a last name to kidnap my own child in broad daylight at a public park?" The officer leaned in again. "You'd be surprised what people do." Lily broke free from the bystander's grip and ran toward the cruiser again. This time she made it to the door. She pounded on the window with tiny fists. "Let him out! That's my daddy!" The first officer turned sharply. "Get the kid back," he ordered. "I'm not the kid!" Lily shouted through tears. "I'm Lily!" The officer crouched again, irritation clear now. "Sweetheart, you need to calm down." "No," she cried. "You're lying. He didn't take me." The officer's tone hardened slightly. "Who told you to say that?" Marcus's head snapped up. No one told her anything. The officer ignored him. He kept his eyes on Lily. "Did he tell you to call him Dad?" Lily's face twisted in confusion and hurt. "He is my dad." The officer sighed like he was dealing with stubbornness, not trauma. "All right," he muttered, standing again. "We'll sort it out downtown." "Move." That word downtown made Lily scream louder. "You're taking him away." The officer shut the cruiser door fully this time, cutting off her view, cutting off Marcus. Inside the car, Marcus closed his eyes briefly, not out of fear, out of restraint, because anger now would only validate the officer's narrative. Outside, the second officer stepped closer to his partner. "You sure about this?" he asked quietly. "Yeah," the first officer replied. "She doesn't look like him." "That's not probable cause," the second officer said. The first officer exhaled sharply. "Look, man, instincts matter. Something's off." "What's off?" the second officer pressed. He gestured toward Marcus in the back seat. "Everything. Lee, and that means kidnapping." The first officer didn't answer directly. He just said, "You don't ignore red flags." Behind them, a man recording spoke up. "The only red flag is you cuffing a father in front of his kid." The officer spun around. "You want to interfere with an investigation?" The man raised his phone higher. "I want to document misconduct." That word misconduct lingered in the air because everyone knew body cams were rolling, and now civilian cameras were too. Dispatch crackled again. Unit 24 confirmed child abduction status. The officer keyed his mic confidently. "Suspect detained, awaiting guardian verification." Marcus spoke loudly from the back seat. "You already have guardian verification. She's screaming it outside your car." The officer ignored him. Minutes passed, heavy ones. Then a silver sedan came speeding into the lot. Too fast for parking etiquette, too urgent for caution. It screeched to a stop near the patrol cars. A woman jumped out before the engine even shut off, still in navy scrubs, hospital badge clipped to her chest, panic written across her face. "Hannah!" Lily screamed instantly. The woman ran toward her daughter, dropping to her knees, holding her tightly. "Oh my God, baby, what happened?" "They took Daddy," Lily cried. "They said he stole me." Hannah's head snapped toward the cruiser, toward Marcus in cuffs. Her expression changed instantly. Shock, then fury. She stood up and walked straight toward the officers. Fast, controlled, dangerously calm. "Why is my husband in handcuffs?" she demanded. The first officer looked her up and down. "And you are Hannah Bennett, his wife, her mother?" She pointed at Lily. The officer folded his arms slightly. "You got proof of that?" She blinked, stunned at the question. "Yes," she said, in pulling out her phone, hospital ID, and family photos in one motion. "Birth certificate copies are in my car too." The second officer leaned slightly to look, but the first officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, step back." Her eyes narrowed. "Step back. You arrested my husband." Pending investigation. For what? Being her father. The officer's tone sharpened. For matching abduction indicators. Hannah let out a disbelieving laugh, the indicator being that he's black and she's not. Silence hit like a dropped weight. Phones zoomed in closer. The second officer looked down. The first officer's jaw tightened. "That's not what I said," he replied. "It's exactly what you implied," she said. She stepped closer to the cruiser window so Marcus could see her. "I've got everything," she said. "Documents, medical records, family insurance cards." Marcus nodded once, calm, certain, because the truth had just arrived on scene, and the pressure was about to shift directions. But the first officer still hadn't let go of his narrative. He keyed his mic again. Dispatch requesting supervisor on scene. Dwayne, because now what started as suspicion was becoming something bigger, public, documented, and legally dangerous. And the reveal had only just begun. The supervisor arrived sooner than anyone expected. Lights off, no sirens. But authorities stepped out of that vehicle before the engine even died. Sergeant Alan Cortez, 20 years on the force, walked onto the scene, already reading the tension in the air. Phones up, crowd gathered, child crying, man cuffed in the back of a cruiser, and one officer standing stiff like he'd already decided the outcome. Cortez's eyes moved slowly across the park, training, taking inventory before words did. He stopped in front of the arresting officer. "Brief me." The officer straightened. "Possible child abduction. Suspect detained pending guardian verification." Cortez nodded once. "Guardian present?" Hannah stepped forward immediately. "I am," she said. "And this is my husband you've got in cuffs." She handed over her ID before being asked. "Nurse badge, driver's license, last name, Bennett, matching Marcus." Cortez took it calmly. Professional, then looked toward the cruiser. "Let's start simple," he said. "Why is he cuffed before verification?" The arresting officer shifted slightly. Indicators matched abduction profiles, such as he gestured vaguely. Child doesn't resemble him. Silence heavy, documented. Cortez blinked once slow, like he wanted to make sure he heard that correctly. "That's your primary indicator." It raised suspicion. Cortez didn't respond right away. He turned toward Hannah instead. "Ma'am, you said you have documentation." "Yes," she replied instantly. She ran to her car, pulled open the passenger door, and came back with a folder, thick, organized, prepared. Inside, birth certificate, hospital delivery records, family insurance paperwork, pediatric records listing Marcus's father, school enrollment forms, photos, dozens of them, birthdays, vacations, family holidays. Cortez flipped through them slowly, methodically, then nodded once. "Cuffs off," he said. The arresting officer hesitated. "Sergeant now." The word cut clean, sharp, non-negotiable. The officer walked to the cruiser, opened the door, ordered and unlocked the cuffs. Marcus stepped out slowly, rubbing his wrists. Lily ran into him instantly, wrapping her arms around his waist, sobbing into his shirt. "I was scared," she cried. "I know, Bug," he whispered, holding her tightly behind them. Camera zoomed closer, because now the narrative had flipped. Cortez turned back to the arresting officer. "Explain the escalation," he said. He was uncooperative. Marcus spoke calmly. "I answered every question." Cortez looked at the second officer. "He did," the partner confirmed quietly. Cortez's jaw tightened slightly. He turned back again. "Then why the cuffs before verification?" The arresting officer hesitated, searching for procedure to hide behind. Couldn't find it. "She didn't look like him," he repeated weakly. The words sounded worse the second time because now they were being said in front of supervisors, witnesses, cameras. Hannah stepped forward again, voice steady but burning underneath. "You didn't verify ID. You didn't call the hospital. You didn't run family records." She gestured toward Marcus. "You assumed." The officer didn't answer because there wasn't a procedural defense for assumption. Cortez reached to the officer's chest, tapped the body cam. "You understand this is recording, right? Why?" "Yes, sir." "Duh. And you're aware civilian cameras are recording too. Shut." The officer glanced at the crowd, phones everywhere, streaming, uploading, archiving. His silence answered for him. Cortez exhaled slowly. "Turn off your mic," he said to the officer, then corrected himself. "No, leave it on." "Chill." Because now accountability mattered more than privacy. He spoke clearly. "For the record, there is no evidence of abduction. Guardian verification confirmed. Subject detained without sufficient probable cause." The words landed like a legal stamp. Final public damaging. Marcus stood quietly holding Lily, but his voice carried when he spoke next. "You humiliated me in front of my child." "Shah." The officer didn't look at him. "You accused me of kidnapping my own daughter." Still silence. "You ignored proof standing in front of you." Cortez looked between them, then said quietly, This incident is now under review. He reached for the officer's shoulder radio. Dispatch, supervisor on scene. Detainment cleared, initiating conduct review. The phrase conduct review made the officer's posture shift slightly, because that meant paperwork. Our investigation, internal affairs. Hannah looked at Cortez directly. We want badge numbers, she said, and body cam preservation. Cortez nodded once. You'll get both. Yeah. Because now this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was liability, recorded from multiple angles. Audio clear, child testimony audible. Bias implied, if not explicit, on tape. And the power dynamic had fully reversed. As Marcus picked Lily up into his arms and began walking back toward their car, the same crowd that once watched in suspicion, Al watched in support. And behind them, the officer who started all stood silent because the truth had arrived. The proof had spoken, and the consequences were already in motion. If you're enjoying this documentary so far, like and subscribe, because the outcome that follows isn't just emotional closure. It's lawsuits, disciplinary action, and a badge about to face million-dollar accountability. The investigation started before the park even cleared, because when an incident involves a child, a wrongful detention, and recorded allegations tied to race, departments don't get the luxury of moving slowly. Body cam footage was pulled that same afternoon. Civilian videos flooded internal affairs inboxes within hours. Multiple angles, multiple audio captures. Every word preserved, unedited, unfiltered, and impossible to explain away. By Monday morning, Officer Grant Holloway, 6 years on the force, was placed on administrative suspension, badge surrendered, firearm turned in, access revoked. The official notice cited detainment without probable cause, failure to verify guardianship documentation set conduct unbecoming. He met, but internally, the real issue sat in bold letters across the review file, bias-driven enforcement, because the footage didn't just show poor judgment. It showed assumption, tone, language, an escalation rooted in perception rather than evidence. The department held a press briefing 3 days later, not voluntarily, but because the footage had already begun circulating online. Millions of views, national attention, community pressure mounting fast. The police chief stood behind the podium, statement in hand. What occurred in that park does not reflect our department's standards, he said. But the public response was harsher because people weren't reacting to policy. They were reacting to what they saw. A father cuffed, a child screaming, an officer refusing proof. Internal Affairs concluded its investigation in just under 6 weeks. He fast-tracked due to civil rights implications. Their findings were direct. No probable cause existed. Identification was verified and ignored. Detainment escalated prematurely. Statements made on body cam indicated bias indicators. The recommendation termination. Officer Holloway was officially fired. Badge permanently revoked. Law enforcement certification flagged, making future policing employment nearly impossible. But that wasn't the end, because administrative discipline was only one lane of accountability. Civil court was the next. Marcus and Hannah Bennett filed a federal civil rights lawsuit. 2 months later, claims included wrongful detention, emotional distress, civil rights violation, child psychological trauma, racial profiling. Their legal team subpoenaed everything: body cam archives, dispatch audio, ID training records, prior complaint history, even officer performance reviews. And what surfaced strengthened their case further. 2 prior complaints involving unfounded suspicion, stops but previously dismissed, now re-examined. The case never reached full trial because the city moved towards settlement once legal risk projections came back. Projected jury sympathy was high. Video evidence overwhelming child trauma testimony compelling. The settlement finalized at $2.4 million allocated across emotional damages, civil rights violation compensation, legal fees, future counseling provisions for Lily. But for Marcus, the money was never the victory. Months after the incident, he still noticed changes in his daughter. She held his hand tighter in public, asked more questions when police cars drove by. Once she whispered, "They're not going to take you again, right?" That was the cost no settlement erased. The department implemented policy changes following the case: mandatory guardianship verification training, bias recognition modules, de-escalation certification refreshers, family identification protocol updates, because lawsuits change policy faster than internal memos ever could. As for Officer Holloway, his name faded from department rosters, but the footage didn't disappear. It became training material, used in MEs as a case study on assumption versus verification, authority versus accountability, a career reduced to a cautionary example. 1 year later, Marcus brought Lily back to the same park, the same lake, the same ducks, the same bench. At first, she held his hand tight again, then slowly let go to feed the birds like before. New healing doesn't erase memory, but it rebuilds safety around it. Hannah watched from the grass, quieter now but stronger too, because their family hadn't just endured the moment, they'd outlasted it. As the sun dipped low over the water, Lily looked up at her father and smiled. "Can we get ice cream again?" Marcus smiled back. "Yeah, Bug," he said softly. "We can." And this time, there were no sirens, no cuffs, no accusations in the air. Just a father and his daughter reclaiming a moment that should have never been taken from them in the first place.
Thanks for watching our coverage. If you gained valuable insights from this case, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Justice Insight Cam. Remain observant, stay safe out there, and catch our next investigation.